The federal government has moved to redirect Nigeria's import trade within the West African sub-region. Under the 2026 fiscal policy measures, 17 categories of goods are now prohibited from being imported into Nigeria from countries outside the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. With the policy taking effect from 1st of April 2026, the banned categories cut across food and agriculture, construction, pharmaceuticals, and consumer goods. Now, joining us via Zoom to discuss this policy and its implications is Jonathan Aremu, Professor of International Economic Relations at Covenant University and a consultant to ECOWAS Common Investment Market. You're welcome to Business Express, Prof.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Prof, we had similar policies in the past. What makes this one different?
Well, this policy look like it's not an isolated one, just because you said that we have seen this kind of a thing in the past. But what makes this one different is first and foremost to be able to look at what Nigeria wanted to achieve. I think the policy look like something like a protection of domestic industry, that is import substitution strategy, not only for Nigeria, but for the ECOWAS region. That is to say, product all coming from ECOWAS countries can enter Nigeria just like under the ETLS. But those coming from outside ECOWAS countries, then they have to actually attract import duty. Well, so it's an import substitution strategy, a regional one. Also, maybe Nigeria wants to use this one to deepen the trade expansion between ECOWAS countries so that those goods that are coming from ECOWAS will come in at a more preferential treatment than other parts from Africa. Well, so maybe Nigeria wants to use it to be able to cushion the balance of payment implications she's facing. And fourthly, maybe for food security, that is in a situation we don't want to be relying on foreign importables in type of food item. Or maybe it can be seen something like a supplementary protection measure from the country. But whatever way Nigeria wanted to look at it, it has its own positive and negative implication. The positive implication, people may say, to industrial growth. Nigeria wants to make sure that production in Nigeria are not being affected by goods coming from other parts of African countries except from ECOWAS. Nigeria knows fully well that not much is coming from other ECOWAS countries. The thinking that
Okay, Prof. Okay, 17 categories is a broader list, you know, when you look at the number of items there. The government says the goal is to strengthen local production and deepen economic integration within the ECOWAS bloc. What, in your own view, are the most immediate gains we should expect from this particular policy direction?
That's exactly what I wanted to be saying. The most immediate gain,
okay, go on,
which are positive implications. Number one is to enhance local production, as the government have said. Number two, to equally deepen the economic integration of ECOWAS country with Nigeria. And possibly, to be able to actually reduce import dependency of Nigeria on other countries outside ECOWAS. But it has its own negative implications. These negative implications are quite numerous, more than the three positive ones I mentioned. Number one, what about if those products, the domestic supply, where you have the product to come from ECOWAS country, are not coming in the right quantity and quality. So what is going to actually happen is that it may lead to what we call pressure. Because when supply is less than demand, there's going to be inflation. That is simple economics. When supply shortages can happen, so smuggling come as a sort of it. That you wanted to make that they sell the product into Nigeria, they can smuggle it, and you know how porous borders are. Then the worst thing here, there can be retaliation, particularly from WTO members. There can be retaliation. Why? Because are you actually going against the most favored nation treatment and national treatment which you sign under WTO? Another important point is that it's not what is known as the African Continental Free Trade Area objective. Because we already signed and ratified after 90% of the product of other African countries can enter Nigeria. Now, if these products are affected, that is against what you actually signed and ratified the African Continental Free Trade Area. And another problem is that there can be transshipment of products, abuse of what we call as a trade deflection. Very wonderful trader that wanted to penetrate Nigeria at all costs actually allowed the product to go through one of the ECOWAS countries and label it as ECOWAS. And that is called trade deflection. And if our customers are not careful enough, the product will come under ETLS, ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme. What we are saying is that this policy, as good as it looks like, it is not so much good after all, because it appears to go against the principle of African Continental Free Trade Area, except conditions under Article 20 of African Continental Free Trade Area that allow a country to actually go into certain measures, and also seeing the economic union position of ECOWAS.
Okay, Prof. How realistic are these expectations from this policy direction?
Well, what I'm saying is that me, I don't think it's a good policy yet. Number one, we enter African Continental Free Trade Area under what is known as customs union. That is to say that whatever we wanted come to our country is agreed upon. All the products are agreed jointly by ECOWAS. Why is Nigeria departing from that customs union with which it enter African Continental and then singling out 17 products? Why? Why? Because other ECOWAS are not doing that. And we jointly allow this product to enter African Continental Free Trade Area. So, to me, I don't so much support that particular position of Nigeria.
So where do you see the need for alignment with the African Continental Free Trade Area? Because right now it's like Nigeria is singling itself or herself alone.
Well, you see, it is there under Article 20 of ACTA, which allow us to be able to move derogatively. But again, can we do that when we have actually entered African Continental Free Trade Area as a block with the same kind of product, as well as the import and export lines, the same thing? So that Article 20 to me may not actually be the very good threshold to argue the case. Because we committed ourselves with all the other 15 ECOWAS member countries, now 12 anyway, but the other 3 are still there. So to me, I think we need to look at it very well, because it may not be a very good thing. Well, Article 19 also actually talk so much about building blocks. Are we not breaking the blocks? So I think that, yeah, because we are building a block, and we are entering African Continental Free Trade as a block, but we are not discriminating against other African countries, only selecting 12 that are ECOWAS. Is the block still the same thing? From my own perspective, something that is okay. But if ECOWAS allow it to be so, as ECOWAS body, possibly it's okay. But if it is not approved by ECOWAS, I don't think it's appropriate.
Okay, do you see our local industries well positioned for this particular policy? Because it means a lot of responsibility. And not only that, a very conducive, we are talking about conducive atmosphere to actually make them shoulder this responsibility to be able to fill that gap. Do you see our local industry well positioned?
That's exactly what I said earlier, my friend. If you block out this product and the domestic manufacturer cannot produce the substitute to be able to supply Nigerian market, number one, it will lead to inflation. Number two, it may lead to trade deflation. Number three, it will equally lead to smuggling. And then there's going to be loss of foreign exchange. So the policy we have a sort of a backlash effect. Backlash in economic means it will meet the decided position, but it will go against the intended purposes. So our companies, are they good enough to be able to produce to satisfy Nigerian market? That's it. Are they producing up to the standard?
Okay.
Secondly, is our border so much protected that there cannot be trade deflation and smuggling of product? These are issues.
Of course, these are issues. And again, Prof, when you look at, we've always had this policy of import substitution. But so far, I would like to hear your view. It's like we've not always been successful when it comes to issue of import substitution. We seem to have it on paper, but so far you can't really, I don't know. There's possibility we have some that have succeeded, but so far you can hardly point at a particular, initiative to say, okay, this is as a result of import substitution, and we have taken responsibility and we move forward from here.
My brother, you are perfectly correct. And I said, this is an import substitution strategy to be able to make sure that we produce what we want to consume. And if we don't have enough, other ECOWAS countries can support us in terms of production.
But what do we actually need at this point in time to actually get ourselves well positioned to actually take advantage? Because if you look at it, it's a good one, but it's just that we don't have the capacity, do we?
Thank you very much. If we want to succeed under this, number one, is in agreement with what we actually have with other ECOWAS countries? Number two, will it not actually offend other African countries with whom we sign and ratify African Continental Free Trade Area? With that fundamental question and answers. The other thing is that, what about the production capacity to take care of the supply of the same product, those 17 items in Nigeria? If the supply is not enough within domestic production, can it be supplied from other ECOWAS countries? If the answers are negative for those two questions, then that will lead to inflation, because the supply will be short, and when supply is short and demand, then the price will rise. Secondly, there's going to be smuggling. Thirdly, there's likelihood for trade inflation. That is to say, a particular product coming from China may arrive at Cote d'Ivoire, and then it may be labeled made in Cote d'Ivoire and enter Nigeria. And lastly, do we have the border communities to be able to monitor any of this possibility of either trade deflection, smuggling, all the things that we actually hamper the import substitution strategy? These are the issues.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Jonathan Aremu. It's been a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you.